The problem is the Australian public down south envisage Cape York Peninsula in an incorrect way. Cape York is as big as the state of Victoria. It is an area the size of the state of Victoria, and you're precluding a whole lot of opportunity on the part of the people who live there, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. You're precluding an economic future for them because you've
disempowering them.
Absolutely, because you've conjured up the idea that there's these threats to the region, and they're completely conjured. There's only one sawmill in the entire region, a very small sawmill near Cooktown. There's only 2 mines, and those 2 mines are more than 50 years old. The Comalco bauxite mine and the Mitsubishi silica mine. So, they're conjuring threats out of thin air, and the Wilderness Society has been absolutely principled.
Yeah, they support this. The conservationists applaud it. And you resigned, did you not, as the head of Cape York Institute to fight this?
I took time off as the leader of Cape York Institute, and I had to put work aside dealing with health, education, getting kids to school and so on, because I came to the view that all of our social work to build welfare reform so that people take responsibility for their children, get their kids to school and so on, all that will come to naught if they're unable to get work, if they're unable to develop enterprise.
If this land is stolen from them. And you accused Anna Bligh of urinating on the rights of Aboriginal people and pushing through the legislation without proper consultation, and she's been supported in Canberra.
And they did this on the very day that Australia signed up to the International Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Extraordinary. She gazetted those rivers on the day that Jenny Macklin and the Prime Minister acceded to the International Declaration. It made an absolute sham of that.
Now, Tony Abbott went up there, and he has lived with these people, not just this time, since he's opposition leader, when he was really virtually a nobody. He's tried to get to understand what Indigenous Australians need. He now has legislation to repeal all of this. Shouldn't the federal government, in the spirit of bipartisanship that Mr Rudd seeks on health reform and everything else, shouldn't, in a spirit of bipartisanship, the federal government support the Abbott legislation?
Oh, absolutely. Tony came up to Cape York Peninsula 8 years ago, and he's been our most steadfast backer for our reform agenda. And he's spent weeks tutoring kids, working with people on our welfare reform projects and so on. He knows the situation on the ground. He knows the people. He knows our predicament. And the bill that he's
people don't know this about Abbott, do they?
Yeah,
they don't know this about Abbott.
And there was 8
years ago.
There was no media present when he came. There were no cameras present when he came. He knows the situation, and he's crafted a bill that provides the very solution we need. It's the solution that requires Anna Bligh to sit down across the table from the traditional owners and make a deal so that we can achieve the protection of the rivers whilst allowing Aboriginal people to develop their land for an economic base.
And yet they're not likely to do it for you, are they? Because this has given them the very Greens preferences that in very tight seats are going to put them into government.
Well, this is a strategy that...
Sell out the Aboriginal community.
This is a strategy that Peter Beattie perfected in the early 2000s, which resulted in the dispossession of pastoral leaseholders in Queensland with the vegetation clearing legislation, the taking of land without compensation, and now the second wave is that Aboriginal people are being dispossessed of their property rights.
Now, it's not just this, is it? Because there's also a push in Canberra, a blanket push for the World Heritage listing of the whole of Cape York.
That's the aspiration of the Greens. They want to cotton wool Cape York, disable the people who live in the region from having any kind of economic base, and their solution to our social predicament, which is the most parlous in the whole country, people living to less than 50 years average life expectancy, because we don't work, we don't have an independent base, we wait for a cheque. And their solution to that is to say, we will send you a green cheque. We will send you a green welfare cheque instead of the traditional one you've received. As if that's some kind of solution for the future of young people in Cape York. It's not.
But the Environment Minister in Queensland, Kate Jones, is supporting all of this.
Absolutely.
Has Peter Garrett spoken to you?
We've put representations to Peter Garrett, but I tell you, in Queensland, you may as well say you're not dealing with the Department of Environment. You're dealing with the Department of the Wilderness Society. Nothing is done by people. Kate Jones is a bit player in the approval scheme in Cape
Even
York
before this
Peninsula.
Senate inquiry this week, am I right in saying you got the impression that Labor senators down there questioning you had their questions scripted by the Bligh government?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And I tell you, the Queensland Labor government gets their script in turn from the Wilderness Society. We sought a consultation meeting with the government, an extension of the time frame. We did that. We approached the then minister, and you know what his response to our delegation was? If you can get the Wilderness Society to agree to the extension, we will allow it.
And you said, who's running this show?
And we thought to ourselves, are you the Minister for the
Absolutely.
Environment, or is the Wilderness Society in charge of this show?
But look, Noel Pearson's not a nobody. You've been around a long time. You've built up a lot of credits. You're very articulate. You're revered within your own community. Does Anna Bligh speak to you about this? Does Kevin Rudd speak to you about this?
I've not had a conversation with either of them. They obviously know my position. We've been 12 months hard at this.
Yeah.
And all of our representations prior to that time have been respectful behind the scenes. But in the past 12 months, we have been absolutely unrelenting in our campaign against this.
But Kevin Rudd apologises to Aborigines. This is fair dinkum stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely.
This is locking Aboriginal people into a non-economic future.
Absolutely, and you can talk all you like about closing the gap. If you don't actually maintain opportunities for people to use their land, you'll never close any gap.
You're unbelievable. You're an absolute star. You're an ornament to your people. And I welcome the opportunity to speak to you on the program and offer the program for you on any occasion that you want these views to be made known. It's time we really woke up and backed a bit of action with the rhetoric that's gone on for too long.
Thank you very much, Alan.
You're most welcome. That is Noel Pearson.